Call the meeting to order. The salute to the flag. Ms. LaBelle Pierce, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag
of the United
States
of America and to the
and to the
republic
republic
for
for which it stands,
one
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
justice for all. Thank you. The mayor could not be with us tonight, so I will take over for him. So there will be no school committee chair report tonight. Resource and school building needs, everything on there has been gone over in the last meeting. If anybody has any questions, Craig is here to answer. If not, policy committee.
Hi, nothing new to report, and that's my mistake. Last meeting, I said we're going to have something to report, so that was my slacking. I sent out an email today to schedule a meeting, and we'll have one ASAP to get a checkup on our last meeting's agenda. So nothing new to report. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Aiden.
Yeah.
Student support.
We have nothing new to report. We'll look to put a meeting together perhaps next week so we can just kind of see how the beginning of hybrid starts and see what we need to follow up on.
Okay, thank you. School personnel, nothing on that tonight. Executive committee, nothing on that. And now what we all look forward to is our student reps, Andrea and Jack.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Jack and I don't really have much to report tonight, seeing as we're coming right off of vacation, but we did come up with a few things. So Friday concluded our winter athletic season. All of our teams had a wonderful season. Ice hockey went 8-3-4. Girls basketball went 8-2, and boys basketball went 6-4. Both of our basketball teams ended their seasons in a playoff tournament, which the girls team hasn't done in years. On another positive note, there were no COVID cases that came from our winter athletic season. We are also aware that many students are happy and excited about the opportunity to play both girls volleyball and football as a part of the fall 2 season. We know that this is a discussion planned for later in this meeting, so we don't want to talk about it for too long, but it's important for everyone to know that athletics are one thing that is keeping this school year as normal as it can be for students.
I have
many students.
Go ahead, Jack. Go ahead, Jack.
We have many students that are excited about the start of hybrid, and many students are excited about seeing their peers and their also friends in the classroom. And the main issue with people have regarding hybrid is just the security of, we know in the past that teachers were not going to be able to teach from home if they had a health issue. So a lot of students just want the reassurance and knowing that their teachers will be able to teach from home when hybrid starts on Monday, and that's the main. So we just want that reassurance. But overall, students are very excited about this to happen. A lot of students have been waiting a while, so they're really happy that this is happening, is coming forward. And also in good news, they said that 75% of the students that are going hybrid have opted into doing full testing, which is very good because that is another safety precaution that we're doing that I know will be talked about later. So all of this is helping us move forward in trying to be the safest that we can. Then the one other thing that students were concerned about was the removal of office hours happening, which relates to the high school level when hybrid starts, because many saw it as a useful tool after school. If they had a question with the teacher, they could do a one-on-one, they get the teachers answered, and they could get a deeper explanation than they could get just in a regular school classroom. So that concludes, and then we'll on to the upcoming events.
So a few things that we have upcoming going on at the high school are, we have parent-teacher conferences that are scheduled for this week. And the second thing is the after-school tutoring program, where students can receive in-person one-on-one guidance from teachers, and that is planned to start next week. So those are the things that we came up with for our report this week.
Thank you. Any questions for our student rep?
I have a couple questions for the student reps, but I guess also for Bob. So Jack, you mentioned students wanting to get reassurance about teachers and whether there were going to be teacher changes. And I guess I would hope that that's already been communicated. If there's going to be a change for anybody's, I mean, this is what I was kind of saying the last time, that this shouldn't come as a surprise to any parents or teacher or parents or kids that there might be a change in their teaching staff. So Bob, are you able to answer anything about that?
Well, I guess the thing that I can say is that we're following the contract and the appropriate laws in place, and that the number of teachers in question, I guess, is relatively small, and we're working with the teachers who have submitted the required paperwork. Because it's a personnel matter, or, I really can't disclose it in public.
So I do understand that about personnel matters, but my point has always been that parents should not be surprised, right? They should be aware of what's happening. Like, we have parent conferences, at least at the high school, coming tomorrow and Wednesday night, and kids and parents shouldn't end up not knowing what's happening, given that it's less than a week away now, right? Or a week away. So I guess this is just my strong recommendation that no one be uninformed, right? Like, as a parent, I have a sophomore at the high school. I expect to know what is happening with their teaching assignments. So I'm just going to make that appeal as a parent and as a member of the school committee. And then I guess I have another question following up. Do you know if parents are, like, I know that in Sally, you have a child in the district too, like children in the district. Like, if you signed up to say that your child would do the pooled testing, like, we didn't get a confirmation on that or anything. So do we just assume that it's all set?
If you've submitted the consent form, Craig or Rowan or Pam could confirm, but I think the completion of the consent form is the only documentation. It's kind of probably a one-way communication from you back to us.
I can't
That's
call
correct.
at a meeting.
Okay.
That is correct, yes. You're going to be giving consent, and there's potentially, well, we're going to get into more of a presentation on it, but giving consent means that your child could be chosen for a particular pool at a time, or maybe not, because it is a small amount of students within the context of the building at any given time. The piece that we will communicate out with mostly is around if the pool comes back with a positive result. But we're going to get into a whole presentation on that later on.
Okay, I'll hold my questions. Thanks. And thanks to the students for presenting.
Thank you.
I had a quick question for Andrea and Jack. So before vacation, we started putting out on social media a new tutoring service called tutor.com. Are you guys aware of that at the high school? And have kids been talking about it? Because it is a service that is available to all students now. And I know one of the things you're concerned about is not having office hours anymore. This will also be a tool to actually help you during that time. So
Yes, so we were made aware of that in Mr. Roach's week ahead emails.
okay.
So I haven't heard anybody personally talking about it, but I have heard people talking about the program that's at the high school that we talked about previously.
Okay.
So hopefully that's something that we can use once we go into the hybrid model and get rid of office hours.
Any more questions? Thank you, Andrea and Jack. We always appreciate that. We have a motion for approval of the meeting of February 1st, 2021.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Mrs. Greenleaf, call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mr. Walsh,
Yes.
Miss Cragen,
Yes.
Mrs. LaBelle Pierce,
Yes.
Mrs. Reynolds. Where is she? I'm sorry, I can't see her. Do we have a vote from Mrs. Reynolds?
I don't
You
think
don't-
she's here.
I don't think she can get on.
Okay,
Ms. Greenleaf, so we'll,
okay. Well, I'll pass. Mr. Horgan?
Yes.
All right. So unanimous with those here.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Executive session, we were going to have an executive session tonight, but we're going to hold it till next week. Next school committee meeting, when the mayor can be present. Communication. I just have one brief one. I will give you more information on March 1st, but this is for school committee. Save the date, March 19th, for a legislative breakfast. CAPS Collaborative and Ellen Holmes, MASC President, will be holding a Division 4 meeting at CAPS on Zoom. We have invited a number of the area legislators who have already responded that they will participate. It will be from 8:30 to 10:30, and you'll be able to ask questions of our area legislators. So on the next meeting, I will have all the information for you. Thank you. Any public comment?
Yep.
Oh, Sally, I'm sorry. I thought you had come up with earlier. Jet's gonna make a,
Yep. I'm going to read something that my daughter Jet has written. She preferred that I read it to everyone. She's right here next to me. So if anyone has questions, I'm sure she'd be happy to answer. So this is called dress codes. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. What are the dress codes in Fitchburg Public Schools? ... Why? Yeah, that's what I thought. I asked my mom why, and all she could tell me was that it was the custom. Now, she may be wrong, and some of you may have different opinions, but how about you stop making girls, yes, I said girls, because did you know that out of all the students, girls get dress coded the most? Just because, quote, the boys. Back to what I was saying, how about you guys at least try to change the custom? Because I know for a fact, boys are not going to think to themselves, ooh, look at her shoulders. I am so distracted by her body. And if you are like that, learn some respect. Oh, and maybe some human decency to go with it. Take what you need, it's on the house. I think I've proven my point. So stop making girls change just because she wore something that she liked, and educate the boys about respect towards everyone. So that is from Jet, who is a 6th grader at Memorial Middle School.
thank you, Jet. Any questions for Jet? We should have a handbook for particularly the middle schools and the high
Yes.
school. All schools should have a handbook. And in the handbook, I know there used to be dress codes. Maybe that's something that we could get from each building, or some information from the superintendent on dress codes for the Pittsburgh Public Schools.
We'll follow up with that.
Okay, yeah, because I know that we have had dress codes, and it was part of the school handbooks.
Well, I think also, you know, we can certainly have, at some point we can have Jet, you know, she did write this, and I think that she, her concern was that it was that the dress code was uneven and that girls were, given less latitude than boys in terms of what they're wearing. So anyway, did I do you justice, Jet? Okay, you can say, speak up. She says yes.
Thank you, Jet. That gives us something else to look at. Superintendent's report.
Okay, good evening. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Before we get started with the report, I just want to recognize and share with everybody that we have been recognized by the U.S. Census Bureau. I'm just holding up the notification and the award that the Census Bureau has recognized Fitchburg Public Schools as an invaluable member of the 2020 Census Community Partnership and Engagement Program. We appreciate the efforts you made in making the partnership program a success and helping achieve a successful 2020 census. Signed, Dr. Stephen D. Dillingham, Director, U.S. Census Bureau. And I want to especially acknowledge Eva Kelly for her efforts in from the school department coordinating the census and working with City Hall to make sure as many people in the school community could be counted. It's very important, not only for school funding, but for a variety of funding across all age demographics in the region. So Eva, thank you. So first up on the formal agenda is we have some new Special Education Parental Advisory Council board members, and Alicia Barosby will announce the new members.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So I have the pleasure of introducing a member of 5 group, which is so large and exciting to have so many people who were interested in participating and being leaders in the Parents Advisory Council, the Special Ed Parents Advisory Council. All of them share the passion for supporting our families and our community. And so Michelle Chadwick is, if you want to just wave, she is our president. She's been a Fitchburg resident for 5 years and has 3 children. Sheree Jeffries, who is there always on her way back from from work at this time. So I'm so glad you're able to make it. She is a family support specialist for Healthy Families and has worked in human services for 20 years. And she has 5 children, 4 of which attend Fitchburg Public Schools. She is also, I believe, the youth football president. So she has many ties within the community. Susan Whitney, if you want to, there you are. She has lived in Fitchburg for over 20 years and works with adults with disabilities. She is our secretary. I'm sorry, the treasurer. And Angelica LaCourse. I saw her. Oh, there she is. Yep. She is our bilingual liaison, and she has run a childcare. She's been a childcare provider in Fitchburg for 13 years. And Adela Cinturon, who has, I'm not sure if I see her on here, but she has been a child care provider in the district for 18 years, and she is our secretary. So I just want to welcome you all. Sheila Talamaraju has been, she goes by Verdu, I believe, but she has been our SEPAC president for many, many years. And she'll continue to be part of the Special Education Parent Advisory, but not in the leadership role, or a formal leadership role. I think she's always a leader and will continue to be so, and has offered her support to the current CPAC, but she's happy to pass the torch. And I think she's just as excited that this large group of people are here to support our families and support the district.
Hey, welcome and congratulations, everybody. Alicia, do we have a date set for the next CPAC meeting?
I would ask Michelle.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Good evening, everyone. Right now, we just had our most recent meeting on February 16th. Right now, I do not have an exact date set. I am looking to be having a meeting held probably towards the end of March, as we're still trying to get our stuff in from the municipal building, workers. I know they're working very diligently, and also getting the rest of the board members also sworn in, because I know some of us have, and we're still waiting on others. So I'm trying to get everything together, so that way we can get everything moving forward, so that way we can get moving.
So as soon as that is scheduled, we will post it.
Yes.
We will send out a notice to all families with students of special needs, as well as post it on the Student Support Facebook page and Fitchburg Public School Facebook page.
Thank you, Elise.
Just a quick question, Mr. Stevens.
Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask, Alicia, can you make sure that all school committee members are emailed with all the SEPAC, so that you have our emails, because we would love to hear from you about when your meetings are and what you're working on. Sheila has, been so dynamic and on all of it, and she was always great on, keeping us informed, and we just want to make sure that, we can support you whatever you need. And we thank you so much for this service. It is so important to have a really vitalized and energetic SEPAC, because you guys are driving the bus and we thank you for it.
I'd like to just add to that. So Michelle, as you all get organized and put your first few meetings together, just make sure that you guys know that we have a student support subcommittee, and Sally Cragen and Jim Walsh and myself are on that committee. And that, if there are issues that you'd like to bring up, or if there are things that you'd like to present to sort of a smaller subgroup, that would be a really great place to bring issues forward. So we just want you to know that that exists too, and we always look for information from you guys as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Gina. I really appreciate you reaching out, and sharing that information. I would certainly, definitely, be interested, and we can certainly talk further about that.
Any more questions, SEPAC?
Okay, well, thank you. And again, I want to congratulate you for volunteering for the CPAC. We're always looking to increase community involvement and connection with our parents. So again, thank you for being involved for our kids. Okay, next item up on the agenda is the pool testing presentation. So as we've informed the school committee and the community already, we have partnered with Concentric by Ginkgo to perform voluntary pool testing of students and staff once we return a week from today. So tonight, making a presentation are Craig Shalfo, Rowan Demanch, and Pam Rivers.
Thanks, Bob. Good evening, everyone. Just as Bob had just mentioned, we have partnered with Concentric by Ginkgo as our pool testing partner, and we're very excited to launch our testing starting next week. So we've got kind of a quick overview of what pool testing is, how it will be implemented, and then some important information for folks to consider at the end, and then we can certainly answer any questions that you may have. But as I've mentioned once before, it's really critical to understand that pool testing is just another one of the mitigation strategies that we have to provide a safe environment for our students to return and for our teachers to be in the buildings with students. It's critical to remember that our staying home when we're not feeling well, our original big four mitigation strategies, mandatory mask wearing, physical distancing, frequent hand washing and sanitizing, and then obviously the updating of our HVAC systems and with our HEPA filters supporting the fresh air intake. pool testing is just another one of the major mitigation strategy that we can provide to have a safe environment for everyone to be back in school. And just a little bit, just the kind of the basics around pool testing. Obviously testing can be an expensive endeavor. By pool testing, we are able to combine a number of staff. Concentric actually goes up to as many as 25 individuals in any particular pool. We're focusing on our pools to be in the range of 8 to 12 testers, at least originally to begin, and then later on in the springtime, we may be able to increase that depending on what type of participation we have and the results that we're getting. But by adding all the number of different testers into one pool, we can decrease the cost of effectively testing our students and staff so that we're able to do this on a weekly basis. And our partner, Concentric, will provide us with the necessary sampling tubes that will be supplied to each school, the swabs, shipping labels so that we can get everything back to the labs for testing and lab processing. They actually have a courier that will be picking up our samples 3 times a week so that we can get our results back as quickly as we can. And then the district will be utilizing our COVID relief funds that we've been receiving from the state and from the federal government to provide our PPE, our on-site supervision, and any communication that we have out with parents and making sure that we're able to track the information appropriately. So our partner has been excellent so far in just communicating and sharing best practices with us to get our testing process underway. So just in, we have some very important roles that we'll have at each testing site in all of our schools. Testing champions will basically be our principals, and they will be the ones that will have access to the actual results once we start testing. Test supervisors are critical person, or technically could be more than one person that will be working very closely with our administrative teams to make sure all the logistical pieces of pool testing are in place. Our test observers, which in this case will be our teachers, which their roles will really be just to make sure that students are actually doing the swabbing correctly. And we'll actually have a short video of what it looks like to have, I think it's a 2nd grader doing the self-administering the swabbing. And then our test takers. And really in a nutshell, that's fine, John. If you can think in terms of how this process takes place, basically a small test tube with a cap is placed somewhere in a central location in a classroom, and that can be used for a classroom or for an area of the building that will be participating depending on the amount of consent forms that we do get back. Basically, there's a collecting tube. Students will be asked to swab. Those students who do submit their consent to test will swab their nostrils 4 times in each nostril, and then they'll simply walk up and place their swab in the collection test tube. And again, it can be set somewhere on the side of a classroom, could technically be done in the field house or cafeteria or even in the hallway. But depending on the amount of testers that we get consents for, we'll be able to fine tune the logistics of how that will actually be rolled out with much greater accuracy. But that's kind of it in a nutshell. There's a test tube that collects the samples. The swabs will go out to each classroom, and every student and staff member who's participating in it will simply swab their nostrils 4 times in each nostril. It's the anterior, it's not the very deep swabbing that some of us may have gone through if we were tested way back at the beginning of the pandemic. This is actually, most of the kids reporting and students that we've talked to and staff from other buildings saying it tickles more than it hurts. It's just at the outside of their nostrils. And this is just a short little picture of just where the swab is going. And again, you can see it may take a little bit of practice with some of the younger kids just to make sure that we're doing it accurately, but teachers will be helping us just observe how that's being done. And then we have a short video of a 2nd grader who has his insights on how this pool testing to take place.
Today I'm going to show you how to do a nasal swab. Step 1. Hand sanitize your hands. Step 2. Take out the nasal swab. Don't touch the side that you are gonna put up your nose. Step 3. Take the swab and put it in your nose and spin it around 4 times. Then do the same thing in your other nostril. Last step, drop it boogers down into the tube. You're done.
So I think that's a great demonstration of what the actual swabbing looks like. And we know that there are, depending on the grade level, the age of the students, that will be working and having to have kids practice how to do this and working with them to do it correctly. And I'm sure there's anxiety out there about, am I going to do this privately? Am I going to have to do this in front of other kids? So we will be working with our testers and our test coordinators and our school-based staff about getting all of those little pieces worked out. But again, I think, that in a nutshell is how it's done with the children and with the staff. But we're also realistic enough to know that there is a level of anxiety of exactly what this is going to look like and feel like. And I think as we do this over the course of the first couple of weeks, that we're all going to get much better at it, and we'll work out any kinks that may come up. But basically that's it. John, if you want to jump to that next slide. Once these test tubes are collected, we will have our test coordinators that will literally go to each classroom. They'll have their little cart that has a barcode reader on it. So they'll wash their hands, they'll cap the actual test tube. They'll collect them. There's a barcoded label on each test tube. They'll scan those in with an identifying name of that particular test. It could be a room number. We'll come up with some industry coding that isn't Mrs. Jones's classroom, but that is significant for us to know who it is. And then that person will also enter just the number of swabs that happen to be in that test tube. So when we think in terms of what the logistical pieces is, for the teachers, attendance will be important. Not only do want to know who's in the pool, but who's present that day that actually participated in the testing. So ultimately we'll log that in. It's really quick. And that's the only thing that we send out to Concentric is just the name of the actual test, the number of swabs that are in that. And then it goes in a Ziploc bag, and then the couriers will be picking it up at the end of the day. We'll be testing on Mondays and Thursdays. So every student, John, if you want to jump to the next slide. So, and again, just a few important points. This is consensual. It's not mandatory for everyone. We're hoping that everybody does participate in it. But we're realistic with the fact that at least initially we may have some nerves and some anxiety about participating, but we're hoping to get a lot of our consents back. We were looking at our numbers. If 100% of the students were hybrid and 100% of the staff, we would roughly have 300 pools that would be going out each week. We'd be doing 150 on Monday, and then 150 on Thursday. And this does include everyone. This includes our custodians, our nurses, our cafeteria workers, our bus drivers from for a student and from Vanpool will all have access to the testing. So anybody who is in school, we are making this service available to them. So again, staff and students will be tested once per week, even though we have 2 testing days. So 50% of the kids and staff will do it on Monday and the other half will do it on Thursday. Because of the way the pools work, our goal is to get the ratio of staff to students, the staff being as low as we can to the number of students. So mathematically, if everyone in the district participated, our ratio would be about 3 staff members to 7 students. It's critical that we don't have any large group of teachers in one particular pool, just because of the follow-up testing that would be necessary if we had a positive pool come back. According to the lab and our goal is that they stick to it, is their results will be in their portal that are accessible to us 48 hours after the swabs reach their labs in Cambridge. So again, they have couriers that will pick up our samples on Monday and Thursday at noontime, and we can expect hopefully 48 hours. They probably arrive, depending on traffic, within an hour or 2 in Boston. So we're betting on that we'll get our results on Wednesday for our Monday tests and sometime on late Saturday or Sunday for our Thursday tests. And then logistically, just looking at how we do the follow-up testing. So if we do have a positive pool that comes back, for students, if you're tested on Monday, we're doing a centralized location of follow-up testing on Thursday evening. And then if you are tested on Thursday, it'll take place on Monday evening. And we're looking at probably 4 to 7 or 5 to 8 o'clock. And again, we're gonna try to work with what works best for our parents. And this will probably be held with thinking of the Memorial Gymnasium, because it does have access directly from the outside. There's good parking there. And we would conduct the follow-up testing similarly to they do at urgent care, where you would arrive, call in, you'd come in, have your nose swabbed, go back out to your car and wait for your results there, so that we're minimizing the amount of people who are around and how long the exposure is to our nurses who will be conducting the follow-up testing. For our teaching staff or our school staff in general who come back, who may be part of a positive pool, they will be able to be tested. So Monday tests would be able to be tested on Thursday morning before school is our goal. And then for our Thursday test, it would be Monday. So we're trying to minimize the amount of, or exclude anyone from having to miss work to wait for the follow-up testing. With our students, because a Monday test, they wouldn't be coming into school till the following Monday. We would have some flexibility there. If they are in a C cohort that are coming 4 days a week, and they were tested on Monday and they were tested in a positive pool, then there is a chance that they would not, if we weren't able to get the results back in time, that they would miss school on Thursday. But we're working on the logistics. Obviously, anybody who is part of a positive pool, they're excluded to return to school until we have follow-up testing and or they meet the requirements for quarantining. So let's stop there. That's a lot of information. And then I'll kind of go through this last slide as kind of a follow-up. But do we have any specific questions? And Pam or Roanne, please jump in if I've missed anything.
Go ahead, Jean. Go ahead, Jean. You're muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The button was tricky there. So I just have a question about how it's going to be done in terms of like, is it as soon as kids come in the building? Is it, you said it's in the classroom, so is it early in the morning? And then about that, And I think Steve Curry is still on the line, right? Like I can't see everybody right now, but I'm just curious because with that adorable kid in the video, and he was cute, but he didn't have a mask on, right? And so our kids are going to have masks on. They're going to be touching the masks, I assume, and pulling them down or whatever they're going to be doing with that. And I was just curious about like what the communication is going to be for, because theoretically, right, if you're wearing these masks to protect yourself from aerosols, right, or the virus, like if there's anything that would be on the outside of the mask, again, I don't know if I'm just being kind of ridiculous about this, and maybe Steve could kind of weigh in on it, or Pam or somebody, but like, are they putting their mask down? And then, yeah, so how's it gonna work?
Yeah, so John, can you back the presentation up a couple of slides? Yep, so you'll notice here, this looks like a middle schooler. So part of the process is you will have to, first sanitize your hands, then pull your mask down briefly to swab your nostrils, which should take 15 seconds, I would estimate, and then pull your mask back up, walk up, drop that swab in the test tube, and then sanitize your hands again. So the before and after sanitation is critical, and then minimizing the amount of time that your mask is actually down in order to do this is also a point which is very important. So again, at the beginning, it will probably take a little bit of extra time. It might take 20 seconds until kids get used to it or get talked through it for their first time. And then, but eventually I think that we could probably, have the mask down for 10 to 12 seconds by the time that it takes to swab each nostril. As far as the location, so there's a few things that go into that. I think with our younger students, having it classroom based makes sense. And again, I say that with a caveat that we don't know how many students will have consent to do this. So if we had 100% of our hybrid students testing in with our staff, then it's almost every classroom is one pool, roughly. There might be some classrooms that are side by side that happen to have 4 students and 2 adults, which would end up being some. Again, we're trying to keep our pools no less than, Concentric said wants at least 5, where our goal is 8 to 12, but no more than that. If we ended up with a pool of 13, because logistically it just made sense because the concentration of those kids are in a local, again, it could be in 3 classroom cluster. You could put a table in the hallway. The kids could walk to the hallway, quick swab, drop that in, be supervised while that's happening, and then going back in the class. So there's, depending on how many kids and staff are actually opting in, will give us a greater understanding of the logistical piece of how to do it. And we talked at length with the Fitchburg High School team before vacation. And technically, if he's running 20 pools, and the kids knew that I'm always in pool 2, then you could set that up in the field house, which is large enough to set up 20 tables with plenty of social distancing. And as kids arrive off the bus, they could report there, do their swabbing, and then head off to class. So, but again, it depends on how many kids are opting in. Even at the high school, if it's a smaller amount in the concentration of where kids are, it could be, again, it could end up being in a classroom. So we do have some flexibility of what that's going to look like eventually, but it really depends on how many kids and staff members are opting in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you, Craig.
Yep. So, just just to jump in, what happens after? So the results come in on a Wednesday. If we do end up with a positive pool, the testing champion or the testing coordinator will be reaching out to the members of that particular pool to arrange information so that they can have their follow-up testing. And as I indicated earlier, staff can come in before school And then because of the cohort A and B, well, it makes better sense to test the students during the evening time. And again, if we do have a positive pool, we know exactly who's in that pool because we're the only ones that maintain that confidential information. We would know that certain students, if they're not able to do the follow-up testing, then they would not be allowed back in school until they do the follow-up testing. So there could be some further communication there around coordinating with a particular family who says, I can't make it on Thursday. What do I do? We would then try to address that. And other districts have literally taken their follow-up testing and have made it more mobile, where they go out into the community for folks who aren't able to get to a local, to the Memorial Gym, which is pretty localized. So we're ready if we need to work with folks to, take that follow-up testing on the road if necessary. And Pam, you can add to that, but there are some considerations around temperature. So it's not like something that we can do outside in the cold. It's something that we would want to have climate control over so that we get the best results for that. But we're ready to work with our families and work with staff to be as flexible as we can for the follow-up testing that is necessary after that. And again, we will communicate information. So if we have a positive pool that does come back and we do the follow-up that we have a positive case, then we will alert, we want to be very transparent. We want to alert folks that we have a positive pool. And really what we would do at that point is notify anyone specifically who would be considered a close contact. So that's the critical point where we still will be working very closely with the Board of Health. Obviously in the schools, we will want to do our due diligence and make sure that we're aware of who's taking a bus, who's not taking a bus, who's in school, were they in school on Tuesday. So we want to maintain good attendance records so that we can do the amount of, I say, contact tracing, but at least follow up in the school building. We know whose classroom they're in. We know how they're getting to school. We know which bus they're riding on so that we can do our due diligence and be prepared to make additional phone calls if necessary.
Greg, I would just add that with the, just to be very clear, that with the positive pool notification, individuals are still always considered negative until proven positive. And then we will continue to, communicate with all along the way. So communicate with the positive pool and then communicate those that absolutely, as you see here, that are the exact close contacts, and then follow accordingly. And just like Craig had said, absolutely, as we've done right along, very much coordinate with our Board of Health.
So if there was a decision that needed to be made around closing a particular classroom for one reason or another, then that would all be coordinated and communicated in collaboration with the Board of Health. And again, much of this, the foundation of this is really based on the fact that we need to make sure that we socially distance. We need to make sure that we are adhering to our hand washing guidelines and doing it frequently and hand sanitizing, because if we had a positive pool, those are all the questions that we're going to be asking folks. We're going to be saying, have you been within 6 feet for longer than this time period? When you were at the bus stop this morning, did you have your mask on? Did you have a conversation with somebody while you were there that we might consider a close contact? So there's really important information that we'll be asking as follow-up, or somebody will be asking as follow-up. So if we're doing these, again, those foundational mitigation strategies around wearing the mask and hand washing, and I can't reiterate enough that if somebody is symptomatic, if they're not feeling well, they should not be in school. And that goes, pretty much across the board. That's not to say that we're not going to have kids that leave the house feeling fine and then 2 hours later start feeling poorly. I mean, that happens. But, the goal is that if anyone is symptomatic, if they're not feeling well, they need to stay home.
I have another question, and this is a great presentation and really thorough, so I thank you for that. But Roanne, I guess like with what you said earlier in the meeting, so this is every kid in every building on a Thursday or on a Monday. Yeah, okay.
That opt in.
That opt-in.
That opt in, yeah, right.
Right.
Okay. And then I know that like maybe a month ago, I was asking about the status of like a dashboard for the district. Can somebody kind of update me on that now that we do have kids in the building starting today, right, with cohort C? So, so where is the status? What is the status of the dashboard? And where are parents going to be able to see that?
So I guess I'll start, Jean. We have some samples that we've been looking at until the students have come into the buildings. We haven't been required to post anything, and I've been sharing out with staff and I think also with school committee the reports that are available from DESE showing the number of students who are in the buildings. That only shows the number of students in the buildings who are testing positive. So we will be tracking that now going forward and reporting that out. So it's forthcoming, and that's something that I know Pam and Rowan and I guess really the team are looking to put together and get out there soon.
And where will it be, Bob?
Well, we can put it on the website.
Okay. I wonder, like, you know, where are you going to get the best traffic, right? Where are you going to see where are the most people? I mean, it makes, obviously, most districts are putting it on their website. So that's, but I think, again, it would be important through whatever other channels, social media, whatever, to communicate with parents that there is a dashboard.
Yeah.
This is Jim. I have a question, Craig, for you, or whoever else would be able to answer this. So you do the pool testing and you come back with a positive pool result, and then you do the individual test to find out who is actually has the positive, is positive for COVID. What happens if a student, this primarily it deals with the high school in sports. If you have a student who tests positive in that pool, but also is a member of an athletic team at the high school, or if you have a teacher who tests positive, who is also maybe a coach on one of the teams, what happens next to that particular team in terms of testing everybody there? If they've been exposed, I know you went through, Craig, the different questions, you know, standing at the bus stop, but in terms of practice, etc., what impact will it have on a high school sports team if somebody in the classroom pool tests positive in terms of the team that he or she may be playing on?
Well,
thank you.
I'll field that one, Craig. So if a student comes back from a pool test and say they're in a math class at the high school, right, but they also play on a sports team, they're going to, that whole pool is going to get the follow-up testing. And let's say that particular student has been identified as positive. So what's going to happen after that is the exact same thing that's been occurring the whole time through. We are going to work closely with the Board of Health, and we are going to identify all the close contacts to that particular student, and then make a determination if the close contacts include the other teammates and coaches or not. And that's a piece where then we're going to just have to be in constant communication to help make the best decision possible based on those close contacts. And so we can't really say we would shut down a team if that student might have been out sick for a week and had no exposure to anybody else on the team. It just depends on what their close contacts look like.
Thank you, Rowan.
Yep. I mean, that's going to be the hard part. And that's the letter we're drafting now is You know, this is kind of one of those situations because I live in a district that's been doing this for a little bit, the testing and communication. When you have a positive test, you want to let people know, but we're only going to have direct contact with families who have had close contact in that piece. And that letter will clearly state that. And then the Board of Health, along with Bob, will make a decision on what might need to happen with any given situation, depending on how we trace the close contacts.
Okay, any other questions in regards to pool testing? Again, you know, the pool testing in summary is a real game changer that is allowing us to return to hybrid and manage the, I guess, really the risk assessment of COVID that's our students or staff could come into. And, you know, as Craig Shalafo mentioned earlier, we'll still be diligent with regards to face mask wearing, hand washing and sanitizing, but also if and when students or staff don't feel well, there's still the right decision to stay at home. So I don't know if that was said earlier, but you know, keeping people who may be ill away from others is a major risk reduction strategy as well. So really just tying into the pool testing, and the reason why we're doing it is just as we're returning or starting hybrid a week from today, John Thompson is going to give a little bit of a summary for what that entails. Just as one last reminder, using our school committee FATV time to re-communicate that information. So John, take it away.
All right, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right, so it's frozen. Hold on one second. Of course, it freezes when I go to talk. Let's try this again. Give me 1 second. I'm going to close it.
John, while you're doing that, could I just ask about substitute plans? Like, I don't know if that's going to be part of what people talk about here, but so have there been additional substitutes identified? Should there be teachers out for testing purposes or quarantine purposes or anything like that for all the different schools?
Well, I'll just respond, Gene, that substitutes before the pandemic and now have been a challenge on finding. And that's true in Fitchburg, and I think probably every school district in the Commonwealth. So we're looking at how we do provide the coverage going forward, and what, you know, if any notifications we need to make to students in advance and parents.
Do any of the schools have identified building subs?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes.
Does every school have identified building subs?
Yes.
I don't know, if everyone does right now, but yeah, they were, yes.
So depending on the school, majority of our schools have 3. And I think the high school may have 4 or 5, correct, Jeremy?
5, John. We have 4, but we can get up to 5.
And I just learned we are also posting for additional substitutes as well.
Yep. All right, so I think my computer is ready to work now. Sorry about that. So just a reminder, like Craig said before, when you're sick, stay home. making sure people are wearing face masks, physical distancing, frequent hand washing. We have our fresh air and HEPA filtration filters, and we have pool testing. So these are all factors that are allowing us to come back hybrid, and we need to make sure we stick to these mitigation strategies as we move forward. So some important information moving forward. We're very excited that students will be back in a hybrid model beginning on Monday, March 1st. Again, we have cohort systems A, B, C, and remote learners, which is cohort D, which I'll talk a little bit about as we move forward. One update that we want to make sure school committee and the community knows about is that on Monday, March 8th, on our calendar, it is scheduled to be a professional development day. It is no longer a PD day. We are going to have a full day of school that day. We felt that it was in best interest of our students and families to move that day to later this year, since we will just be transitioning to the hybrid model. Bus schedules are complete and they are posted right now, Craig, on our website.
I believe that Donna Hildreth is updating them, but they're 99% done. We're making some adjustments based on some updating of cohort numbers from different schools, but by and large, they are complete.
Great. Again, all transportation is running under original guidance for the physical distancing. Single seats, open windows, the max occupancy of the bus will be at 23 students. And then our daily health certification form will be emailed each morning to all Fitchburg Public School student accounts. And hard copies are also available in our schools for students to complete.
John, can I ask you that? So a kindergartner is going to get an email every morning about to have to fill in?
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So we have a mechanism that it will go to the kids' accounts. I'm guessing at this point, particularly obviously with our younger students, that most of the parents are logging them in to get them into their Google Meets. So they're familiar with their login information. They're familiar with their Gmail accounts. So that's the best way for us to do that. Schools also, individual schools have hard copies that parents can take with them in English and in Spanish. And they also have a Google form that they can use to send directly to a parent email if that's easier. We actually have a QR code that parents can put the QR code right on the refrigerator, hit it with their phone and log right into the system. So we're trying to streamline it, but because it's being sent out of the public school accounts, it's only going to those student accounts.
Okay, but there will be other ways to access it that are even better. Yeah. And can I ask you on that form, does it talk about travel?
Yes.
Okay, so they're certifying that they feel well, that they haven't been out of the state, that they haven't been in contact, all that.
Yeah.
And is it now the job of the front office to check on kids who don't fill out their form but are present in the school?
Yeah, I think the forms serve as a good reminder to all of us to take these simple precautions around how we feel, if we've traveled, adhering to the travel guidelines and quarantining. Even with us as adults, there are times where I may miss, unfortunately, in the morning, and then I get a reminder email. So this mechanism will send those out for a second time.
Yeah, I was wondering about, because that happens to me a lot.
Yeah. Right. I think there will, much like anything else, there will be some kids that might be a little more apt to forget, and we might need to work with those particular families just to remind them. But we'll be able to monitor that. We'll see what that looks like. But it is the responsibility of each and every one of us that we're certifying that, that I feel well, I haven't traveled, and I'm ready to come to school.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving forward, I'm gonna now move into the schedules for each school. Again, this information has been posted on our social media platforms in addition to our district website. And again, this isn't exactly specific for each school. It will have some variations in times of classes, but this is pretty much kind of what a typical day will look like for students. So I'm going to begin with Crocker, Rheingold, and South Street Elementary. The school hours for these three schools are from 8:15 to 2:35 p.m. On Monday and Tuesday, we have cohorts A and C in school and cohorts B and D remote. On Wednesday, all students are home learning on Wednesday. And then on Thursday and Friday, again, we have cohorts B and C in school and cohort A and D remote. From 8:15 to 12:30, that will be the live synchronous teacher instruction for all students, both in school and at home. And then at 12:35 to 2:35, students in school will be dismissed from in-person learning and head home on the bus. And all students will have lunch. This will be about an hour. We have estimated it will probably take about an hour for all kids to be able to get home, eat lunch. And then we expect after that hour, all students then will log back in around 1:30, and from 1:30 to 2:35, complete independent asynchronous work at home on their own. So that's the elementary. For the middle schools, for Longsjo, Memorial, and McKay, these three schools, their times are from 7:30 a.m. to 1:50 p.m. Again, we have cohorts A and C in school on Monday and Tuesday, and cohorts B and D are remote on Monday and Tuesday. All students are home on Wednesday, and on Thursday and Friday, cohorts B and C are in school, and cohorts A and D are remote. We'll have live instruction for all students in the middle school, Longsjo, Memorial, and McKay, from 7:30 to 11:45. Again, that's live teacher instruction. And then from 11:45 to 1:50, just like the elementaries, but a little bit different. Dismissal will happen for in-person students. And those students will, also all students will have lunch. That will take about an hour. So about 11:45 to 12:45. And then from the remainder of the day, from 12:45 to about 1:50, all students will complete asynchronous independent work. So Fitchburg High School is going to school. Their hours are from 8:30 a.m. to 3:05 p.m. Again, Monday and Tuesday, cohorts A and D are in school, cohorts B and D are remote. Wednesday, all students are home. And on Thursday and Friday, cohorts B and C are in school, and cohorts A and D are remote. From 8:30 to 9:15, this is a little bit different, but all students at the high school will start with asynchronous independent instruction. Then school will be live in session from 9:15 to 1:40. Students will receive live teacher instruction at that time. And then for the rest of the day, from 1:40 to 3:05, will be dismissal for students in person. Students will have lunch. That will take about an hour. And then beginning at probably about around 1:30, students will then finish the day off with asynchronous independent work until 3:05. Goodrich Academy will run 3 sessions during the day. Each student has been notified by Alexis Curry and her staff what session they'll be in. So the 3 sessions start in end times are 12:15 to 3:30 p.m., 2:25 p.m. to 5:30 p.m., and 5:15 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. Some students may overlap a little bit depending on their schedule, but these are the 3 session times. And finally, Roanne, do you want me to go over this, or would you like to do that?
Well, I'll go over it. So because of preschool can be very difficult to run remotely. And a lot of our families are choosing or wanting to come back. we are running an AM and a PM session with a bulk of time in between the sessions to do cleaning and some remote learning. So McKay will, their AM session will start at 7:30 a.m. They'll dismiss at 9, and then the PM session will come in at 11:30 and dismiss at 1. Crocker will be at 8:45 to 10:15, and the PM will be 1 to 2:30. And then Fitchburg High School, South Street, and Rheingold all will be starting at 8:30 to 10 for the AM session and 12:30 to 2 for the PM session.
And just again, we got to make sure we keep safe with making sure we are socially distanced, following those protocols, hand washing, making sure we're using hand sanitizer, disinfecting, making sure we minimize our contact, sneezing correctly into our elbow, wearing face masks, and staying home if we are sick. And I think that is all. Any questions regarding our hybrid model?
John, do you want to continue with the ESSA report cards, or do you want to breather and let Craig Antossi go?
It's completely up. Craig, do you want me to continue or would you like to go? I know you've been, you sure you want me to go? All right, that means I have to be quick because you're next, right? So, all right. So just so you all know, and I'm sure you're all familiar with this protocol, but each year we are mandated by the Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA, to distribute district and school report cards to all our families for students enrolled in our district. These report cards are a very important reporting tool for our community to let them know how students are doing in our public schools. And these report cards collect some information on assessment, accountability, educator qualifications, and other measures of school quality that they have identified. So that being said, for this year's distribution, 2020 report cards had to be distributed this year, but we did not have any MCAS scores, as you all are aware, because of the COVID pandemic. So we were, so this year there were no MCAS scores, and usually that's really the main focus of the report. We did receive some other data that we'll be going over with you, but this year you'll notice families out there and school committee members that when it came to the MCAS accountability section, it was still the 2019 data. Our district has posted all report cards on our district website at fitchburg.k12.ma.us. As soon as you go to the first page of our website, you'll scroll down and you'll see the header of school and district report cards, and every school and the district's report card is available electronically to parents on our website. Report cards this year, the state recommended that we email all report cards to our families this year. So all families received an email before February vacation from their school with this year's school report card. So all families should have that. For any family who prefers to receive a hard copy of that report card, we do have printable versions available in our school offices. So you'll just need to let someone know that you would like a printed copy, and we'd be more than happy to allow you to pick that up, or we can mail that home to you. This year, we also made sure that we distributed the report cards to different members of our community. We sent copies to our city hall, the public library, and some of our community members that we work with, the community organizations. Mock Head Start received a copy, and also the CHNA 9 Community Health Network of North and Massachusetts also received our report cards, and those are all available there as well. Any questions on that? So at this time, I'd like to actually just bring you to the report card. Can everyone see the report card?
Yes.
So this is Fitchburg Public Schools District report card. And as you can see, here's our superintendent's information, in addition to our grades served and our district website. And here are the questions that our district report card answers. Who are our students and teachers? What academic opportunities are available to our students? What do student attendance and discipline look like in our district? How prepared are our students for success after high school? How do our students perform on state tests? How much does our district spend per student? And how is our district doing in the state's accountability system? So if it's okay, I'd like to actually run through some of these and show you some examples on where we're at. Is that okay with everyone?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So here for student enrollment, you can see here, they compare us, our district enrollment. We have 3 data points from 2018, 2019, and 2020. And as you can see, we did have a decrease this year going from 2019 to 2020. And then you also have our data, you also have Massachusetts data, all the school districts in Massachusetts. So our student demographics, this is a really important data set. It looks at what our different student subgroups are throughout our district. And actually, if you click on this, you can actually go through each of the different subgroups that we have in our district. So right now, we have 100%, here's all our students. And if we if we go to the next subgroup, which is our high needs students, you can see that currently in 2020, we have about 73% of our students identify as high needs students. This is up from last year from 72.4%. And to identify as a high needs student, students belong to at least one of these other subcategories, which include students with disabilities, current and former English learners, students who are economically disadvantaged, and high needs students. So they all belong to one of these categories. So 73% out of our 100% of our students have identified as high needs.
And John, just comparing to the bars on the right are the state percentages for that category as well.
And then the other subgroup I like to highlight is our Hispanic population, or subgroup. We all know that we have a lot of students in our district. And at this time in Fitchburg, we have about 53.4% of our students who are Hispanic, which is up from last year from 51.8%. And then that was up from the year before at 50.5%. And then to the right, you can see that, again, like Bob said, that is our state's data when it comes to all the school districts in Massachusetts. Is there another subgroup that anyone would like to see? Anyone on cabinet? Okay, I can keep moving, but again, you can find data for all these different types of subgroups. So as we continue moving down, the next category talks about teachers. And we can see how many teachers we have in our district, which is currently 380.8, compared to Massachusetts, which is 75,152. Teacher qualifications, again, I think this is either dark blue or maybe black. The first bar shows us our licensed teachers. The second dark blue bar are the teachers licensed in the subject they teach. And then the next light blue or lighter blue is experienced teachers. So as you can see, those are, and I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, experienced teachers are 3 years or more, correct? I don't think Carrie Wahlberg, I think it's 3 or more years, correct?
Correct. Couldn't find the mute
Sorry
button.
about that. So as you can see, we have about 97.9% teachers who are licensed teachers. Out of those teachers, 94.3% are licensed in their subject area, and we have about 80.7% of teachers who have 3 years or more experience. And then we all have our numbers over here compared to the state, which we're pretty close to. As we continue to move on, what academic opportunities are available to our students is the next category. So again, access to broad and challenging coursework. These are the percentages of our students that have access to some type of art class or music class or theater, dance, or some type of general art or music class. And as you can see, our district, we're about 83.7%. Compared to other districts in our state, which are at 80.7%. So Fitchburg is doing a little bit better than our state when it comes to the amount of students participating in art or music. And then if you look at our subgroups, high needs students, about 84.6% of those students are participating in some type of access to art class. And then going down to our Hispanic students, we're about 85.6% of our students who are participating in some type of art. As we continue to move on, looking at, and again, this is our Hispanic subgroup, continue to move on, we can see that this is the advanced coursework completion. So this is the 11th and 12th grade students completing at least one advanced course. Those courses could be AP courses, International Baccalaureate, Project Lead the Way, dual enrollment for credit, some type of approved vocational technical cooperative program, or some type of other rigorous courses. So right now, if you look at our Hispanic subgroup, we only have about 37.7% of our students participating in advanced coursework, compared to all students, which is at 46.6%. So if you continue to move down, course 9, grade 9 course passing. So these are the amount of students who are passing grade 9 courses. So right now for all students, we have 82.4% of our students passing grade 9 courses compared to 83.7%. We are a little bit lower than the state. Again, if we go back up and we switch to our high needs subgroup, our high needs students are about 78.7% passing grade 9 classes compared to the state's average of 73.2%. So we're a little bit higher than the state. And then if we look at our Hispanic subgroup, again, that 37.7%, 80% of our students in grade 9 are passing their coursework compared to 70.7% of Hispanic students throughout the state completing their coursework. So Fitchburg is higher. And again, we also have our mass core completion. That's making sure the mass core, 4 years of English, 4 years of math, 3 years of lab-based sciences, 3 years of history, 2 years of the same foreign language, and 1 year of some type of art program. So you can see this is our Hispanic population. We have about 51% of our Hispanic students who are completing the Mass Core requirements compared to 72.3% in the state. And if we go back up and we move to all students, again, 53.8% of all our students are completing Mass Core requirements compared to our state, which is at 82.2%. Is Jeremy still on the call? I don't know if Jeremy wants to speak to this at all.
I am here, John. Yeah, I can certainly weigh in. I don't think that's always accurate on the mass score. You know, there's a couple factors there that definitely impact some of our students. We certainly have some students who are taking, you know, the ESL programming that's required and part of what they need at the time. And of course that impacts something like this, but realistically, we have the same graduation requirements that the Mass Core requirements entail. So, and you know, we've scheduled that for all students. Some of the classes are sheltered. You know, like I said, if a student is in ESL 1, you might say ESL 1 in their schedule, not English 9. So it doesn't get coded appropriately in this Mass Core thing. So I've always had an issue with the Mass Core data. To me, the really important stuff is like grade 9 passing, access to advanced coursework, and things like that. Because again, I think the Mass Core data capture doesn't you know, collect all of it. Just the way that it corresponds over it isn't 100% accurate.
That's good to know. Thank you, Jeremy. And as we continue to move on in the other categories, you can go and you can look at student attendance and discipline. Again, our attendance rate for the district did improve. In addition to our chronic absenteeism rate did decrease this past year.
And we recently shared that information with the school committee at the last meeting.
Sorry, I'm going through this pretty fast. If you need me to, a lot of data here. So if you need me to stop or slow down or repeat myself, please let me know. And again, days absent, again, these are the average school days. And remember last year, we had a hard stop on that March 13th when the world kind of paused for COVID. So, you know, this data does reflect that a little bit here. So you can see that we had a nice decrease in the number of days absent from 11.6 last year in 2019, or in 2019, 11.6 to now 6.8, which was last year's 2020 data. And again, it talks about student discipline, the number of suspensions and expulsions and other incidences last year. Not sure if it was a reporting issue, but it's showing up 0%. So I'm not sure how accurate that piece is here. And then if you continue, and again, all of this is available for you to look at. We have our high school outcomes for high school completion. You can go in and you can, again, sort through subgroups there.
And then I guess just as a caveat, as people, if they do scroll down for that, the final numbers for last year have not yet been released.
Yet.
Yeah, so we're still waiting.
Still waiting. And again, like I said, how students do an MCAS, this data, everyone is as well aware of. We presented this during the 2019-2020 school year. Again, we didn't have MCAS, so we don't have updated data for you to look at. And then the last two categories is how much the district spends per student. And then the final category is the accountability system, which again is related to our assessments. And this is leftover information from 2019-2020. So that is all I have regarding the district report cards. Again, all this information is available on our district website. Families had this information emailed to their accounts before vacation. In addition, we do have hard copies available in the office that can either be picked up or mailed to families who are interested. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, John. Really, thank you for giving a little bit of a tutorial or running through the report card and the interactive features. I think it's one of the few DESE tools that's really easy to navigate. Some of them are not easy to navigate. So moving on, we went a little bit out of sequence, but we're going to return now to floating season sports, and Craig Antossi is here tonight to talk about the proposed upcoming season for football, co-ed unified basketball, volleyball, and track and field. So, Mr. Antossi, the screen and the audio are all yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jokla. Once again, thanks everyone for having me back to school committee. It's always something I look forward to. So I'm going to grab a quick screen share here, and I'm going to keep it really, really brief, given that this is our third go round. So I'll stick only to the information that you really have to know, and then I'll open it up for any questions that you might have relative to that. Okay, so you should be, if this loads up momentarily, seeing my screen. And Mr. Stevens, if you can see the first slide that says Fitchburg Public Schools, can you give me a thumbs up?
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, so the standard protocol that we've been kind of running through here is the EEA comes out with some guidance for us. It runs through the MIA filters to tell us what's available for us, and they check with DESE. Then it kicks down to our local level at the District Athletic Committee and our Midland Wachusett League. And then finally, we come to you, or I come to you, seeking approval to run sports because we are remote, although hopefully that changes in the very, very near future, as we've been discussing this evening. First thing, I'm just going to throw up this slide and give credit to FATV where credit is due. They have been breaking their backs, televising all of our sporting events live. I think they had something like 33 live broadcasts in 39 days. They've been going around the clock. And for our community that's watching, they've just launched an app on Roku, the Amazon Fire Stick, and Apple TV. So you can actually tune into our live events in the fall 2 season, where we'll definitely have, or provided it's approved, have some football games for the community to watch. So again, I've got to give credit to FATV and the community, the people working with FATV. They've been absolutely fantastic bringing our live sports to you all, given that we haven't been able to have spectators. This is our COVID data for athletics, and I want to draw everyone's attention to the far right column where you see a whole bunch of zeros going down. We have had 0 inter-squad and intra-squad transmissions of COVID through our winter season, running 2 of the high-risk sports, both basketball and hockey. You know, we learned a lot in the fall season. I've detailed our SWAY protocols to you all. I think that number is a testament to the fidelity with which we have kind of applied these protocols and the fidelity of our student athletes and our coaches in following them. Again, that big 0 speaks for itself. We haven't had any real incidents here. And actually, just prior to this meeting, I checked Mass High School hockey. Our boys hockey team played the most engagements in the state of Massachusetts this winter. We had 15 games. That is 2 more games than the next closest, and well above the state average, at least 5 games above the state average in games. So again, this is a testament to the work that our staff has been doing and our student athletes and our coaches to ensure safe environments in which we can participate in athletics in this weird COVID world. As you can see, a lot of practices every week, a lot of games. The positive athletes we've had all came from the outside and they were familial. In fact, 3 of the you'll see that Most of the cases came right around the holidays while families were gathering. Where you see positive athletes as a cumulative total, that means we did not have a single positive athlete after 12/28, right? Which again, great stuff all the way around. And this is really the data on which I build the ask or the argument that we should be able to run a fall 2 season outdoors, regardless of any logistical hurdles you might have to hop over, because I feel like we can do it and do it safely. So this is what we're kind of looking at. I've highlighted it in yellow. You'll see that we have football, boys and girls indoor track, and girls volleyball. And then I have cheer and unified sports as a to be determined. And we live in a fluid world. There's always decisions that are being made. Even very recently, unified basketball, there will be no games, and they were looking at only skills. Many of the logistical hurdles surrounding unified sports indoors would be some of the accommodations that would need to be made for players that don't wear masks. We've elected in Fitchburg Public Schools to explore not unified basketball this season, but instead a unified disc golf as the weather starts to break, so we can get those athletes and coaches outdoors, still participating in activities, but doing so again out of doors, where not wearing a mask can be done appropriately with social distancing. Students can still be involved. The people at Disc Golf 978 or 978 Disc Golf have been excellent. The owner down there, Scott Radford, he came and gave a clinic last March. We're hoping to reconnect with them and provide this opportunity for our unified athletes around the campus here when the weather starts to break. Right now, cheer is listed as a high-risk sport still. We'd love to get it off the ground. Many schools are discussing it and exploring it. One of the things that is problematic from a sideline cheer perspective is they count against spectator counts for football games. So a lot of schools are figuring out, how can we accommodate our cheer programs at games, give them the opportunity to do what they love, but also still allow for parents to come see their students play. Being outdoors with something like football is the first time in a while that we could even potentially provide an opportunity for parents to see their athletes compete. So we're just trying to work out the logistics surrounding it. I've been in contact with our cheer coaches, and provided we can make it happen, in a conversation I had with Mr. Roach today, the school system, the school, high school, really supports cheer, and we're going to look to make it happen if possible. But I can't say for sure what that's going to look like. There's just too many question marks at this time. The sports where there are less question marks, girls volleyball is going to run very similar to basketball indoors in a cohorted model. We'll run a 3-level program. It'll have varsity, JV1 and JV2, and we'll have numbers restrictions of 9, 9, and 12 for the program, which will make a total of 30 players overall that'll be monitored in our sway system. That keeps us well within our restrictions for indoor workouts, and I think it'll make us nice and competitive for the year. We've been in contact with Coach Bullock and her staff. That's ready to start as soon as 3/1. Boys and girls indoor track has been pushed into this floating season. There won't be a competitive indoor track season because the facilities like ourselves here in Fitchburg and the other field houses across the state just aren't hosting indoors. It doesn't make sense. But what we are looking to do as the weather warms up and the tracks melt is to have perhaps some localized meets outdoors in kind of this indoor style event outdoors as the weather gets warmer towards April vacation. We will start to bring boys and girls back, get them conditioned, give them an opportunity to participate in cohorted models once we get football and girls volleyball off the ground. So there'll be a slight delayed start to that, but we have plans in place to get it done. And that brings us really to the big one, which is football. And football is probably the one that from a community perspective is on a lot of people's minds. And football presents a whole bunch of logistical hurdles. However, we're really working through all of them to make it a reality for our student athletes. So, what's governed here for football and all the sport, the governing body for football and all the sports is really the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. And I've shown you this before, so I'll click through these quickly. they divide the sports into lower risk, moderate risk, and higher risk. You'll see we have lower risk sports and unified disc golf outdoors. Track and field and volleyball fall under the moderate risk. And then our football and cheer fall under the higher risk. On February 8th, the EEA basically came out and said that football, being the one we're most concerned with from a higher risk perspective, they may participate in levels 2 and 3 play, which is a different tack than they took back in the fall when we pushed football off to this winter season. In the fall, they said football could not raise to the level of level 3 play, meaning we could not have games. The EA has since modified that and said, as long as we're outdoors, yes, we can participate in games, inter-squad, meaning we can play other schools. And the modification they made on February 8th was also to allow some restricted football workouts indoors, which provides the opportunity for us to run football during the winter. Because I don't know if anyone's looked out the window, it was just snowing. So because that's a little bit of an obstacle, we're going to have to start indoors. And the EA has just said that we can do so. And that's why I throw up that first slide of our COVID data to hopefully instill confidence in our school committee that our athletic department can make that happen in a safe and organized fashion. And we're not taking any unnecessary risks to do so. This is what our pods look like for football and girls volleyball from a competition standpoint. In football, we have Neshoba, North Middlesex, Marlborough, Westboro, Tantascwa, Grafton, and Oakmont. This is very similar to the schools that we would play in a normal year. We will not play all of these schools. Right now, we're looking at a 5-week pod schedule, and then we're going to add Leominster in the 6th floating week at the end of the season in order to maintain the tradition of playing Leominster, if possible, in that rivalry game, and give our seniors, and hopefully by that point, some of our students an opportunity to enjoy these traditions that they've missed out on for so long here. Our first week targeted is the week of 3/26. That's Friday against Marlborough, and that would be an away game at their middle school, Whitcomb Middle School on the turf. I don't have a time or exact date for that, but that's what we're targeting. On the girls volleyball side, you'll see we have schools that we play, we have good connection with, and we play during a normal season. So there's a lot of familiarity between the athletic directors and the pods here. We've been working through this together now for 8 months. So we feel very confident that we can do this safely, even given some of the logistical challenges that we're facing. So I'm going to drop screen share here so you can see me while I go over the last couple pieces. We're asking to start, or we're really looking to start our floating season sports on March 1st. And there's a reason behind it.
Excuse me.
God bless you, Mr. Stevens.
Thank you.
Many schools around us, if you look on Twitter, started some football workouts or sports workouts today. We've elected to start a little slower. Two reasons for that. First reason being we didn't have approval. I had to come talk to you all tonight. And the second reason being we're looking to get all of our student athletes started on Sway tomorrow when the window's open, meaning we will start to get them to monitor. We will start to monitor for symptoms and any out of state travel or any type of close contact. And we want to do that for a number of days prior to the beginning of the season. It'll give us about 5 days of Sway data before we meet, which will give us, that should be more than enough time for any contact that happened today to see some symptoms in the population. We felt like taking a really slow and measured approach would be the best approach to this rather than rush into it. Our first week schedule, when the schedule came out in the pod, I negotiated with Eric Dolly, the athletic director from Oakmont, to push our game to the end of the season. So our first game is the 3/26 instead of 3/19. So our team doesn't lose any time, or any of our teams really lose time in their ramp up to the season. We all have roughly the same amount of time to prepare. We want to be conservative in this start because we want to make sure we can do it well. And that is kind of like a nuts and bolts approach here. There are lots of specific logistical hurdles that we're facing in running football. We don't Crocker Field is not a viable facility for us right now because it's under snow, right? Under a foot of snow. Even when the snow melts, it will be pretty soft, and we want to protect that field. There's a chance by the end of the season we could play a football game on it, but we'll start on the road at the beginning of the year, which really kind of creates a lack of practice space. Like I said, we'll start indoors, and we're efforting to work our way up onto the turf up at West Fitchburg with the Game On facility, but they are efforting right now to get it plowed off, and we don't anticipate that happening this week or next week. So we're just kind of in a wait and see approach on that. And then there are some hurdles that come with being at a satellite facility with no locker rooms as well. But again, all of these are logistical hurdles that we can solve one at a time, provided that you give us this approval. So on that note, I'll just open it up to questions here, and I feel like that'll be the easiest way to get this done.
Jim, you have a question, Jim?
Craig, I'm not sure if you can answer this. I know you said that some schools have already started practice this week. How can they do that if the fall 2 season doesn't begin until March 1st? How can they practice before the season begins?
It's an excellent question, Jim. So technically,
before you answer, I do want to say I appreciate your approach of going slow, taking small steps to make sure everybody is safe, everybody is taken care of, and not putting anybody at risk. And I really appreciate what you're doing for the Fitchburg High School varsity sports. So I thank you for that. So, okay.
Thanks, Jim. And I appreciate that. And it's built on a lot of hard work for people who don't get noticed, and it's unsung work on behalf of our student athletes. And then our students have been fantastic in buying into that to make it happen. The MIAA, to answer Jim's question, Gene, and then I'll answer yours. The MIAA put a start date of 2/22 really today globally for the statewide that schools can start. In Eastern Mass, where and in other parts of the state where they don't have the snow on their facilities, really snow on the fields, they're targeting a start date for games earlier than we are, right? They're really efforting to play as soon as possible. With a sport like football, it requires 15 days of practice. So in order to get 15 days of practice in and hopefully play a game on March 19th, a competitive game, they needed to start today. I'm asking for us to start on March 1st. Again, I know that may not be popular in all circles, but for us, for what we're trying to organize in the city here and the amount of snowfall that's currently on our fields, it just made more sense to roll it out slowly and do it well rather than rush into it. So that's why we're targeting 3/26 for our first football game, because that being probably the biggest sport that presents the most challenges for us.
Jeannie? Jean?
Yeah, Craig, same. I think it's smart to roll things out slowly and make sure everything is safe. But I guess I should probably know this, but does every other team that are in the pods that we're in, do they all use Sway?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, this pod that we just jumped into, every one of those schools is a part of that self-certification student monitoring system. I mean, it's proven to be super effective. So really, schools would be foolish not to do it at this point, given the size of the school systems that we have that we're competing against.
Okay, thank you.
Craig, my only concern would be with outside coaches. We're going to be doing pool testing, so we're going to have a good idea. Our kids are going to be safe. So when you start practicing, if the staff who's coaching are outside of the school system, are you going to test them on a regular basis?
It's a great question, Mr. Stevens, and we haven't had tests available to us up to this point. So what we've been doing with our outside coaches is we've actually been adding them to our Sway system and having them self-report daily as well. I know that not all schools do that. Some of the schools haven't been monitoring their coaches, and actually coaches have been some of the people who have brought in COVID to their environments. We have not gone that route. We've been swaying our coaches since really we've come indoors, and that has been invaluable, and we'll continue to do so. And if there is an opportunity to involve coaches in pool testing, we'll certainly evaluate that as we move forward.
That would be my only concern, because we have great coaches and they produce some excellent teams this season, doing a great job. So it'd be just somebody who's not working in the school system that maybe they would be tested.
Okay.
Any other questions? Greg, I have one thing. We had a great hockey season this season, and I kind of taking Andrea Harding tonight mentioned we had a 4th loss. Maybe you can explain. We had an outstanding game against Groton Dunstable. Groton Dunstable beat us 6-0 this year, and we tied Groton Dunstable 2-2 and almost won that game. But then they played overtime, the only time this year, and Groton Dunstable scored a goal, and they called that a loss against us. Could you explain?
Well, Mr. Stevens, you know, they're calling it a loss. I'm calling it a tie, right?
That's what I'm doing.
But yeah, no, we played over.
It was a tie in the Telegram, Pete. So that's what we're going with.
Okay, that's it. Because
So it is written.
Our kids played super.
Well,
And-
you know, I was rooting for a tie in OT because then, because it was the last game of the year, we were going to settle it in a shootout, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't rooting to watch that. So, if no other questions, that's what I have for you.
I have one last question that's unrelated to fall 2 sports. But yesterday and earlier today, I went to the high school website to get more information. And maybe it's deliberate. I don't think it should be. But when I go to the Fitchburg High School website, there is no link at all to Fitchburg athletics. And I think that's an omission that should be, when I go to the high school, if I want to see about sports, I should be able to go from the high school page, just as I do for education, academics, etc. So I'm not sure if that's something you can deal with, Craig, or if that was a decision not to include athletics on the high school website. I'll leave it at that. And
I think, Jim, I can answer that. That was actually, I think that's just an oversight. There was a link to an old website, and when we took that down, I think it just broke the link to the new website. But in the future, if you ever want to visit our site, just go to fitchburgathletics.com.
I did find that eventually, so it's so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
No further questions? We're going to go through the budget items, and then Craig, we will be voting on that very shortly. Donations.
Yep, we have one donation this evening. It is from the Digital Federal Credit Union of $20,000 to Mr. Roach at Fitchburg High School, and this will be used for a range of scholarships from $500 to $2,000 for the class of 2021.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Digital Credit Union. Appreciate that. Grants, Craig?
Yep, we have one grant to submit. It's a financial literacy planning grant for $15,000 to be used at Fitchburg High School for professional development and in-person and/or virtual experiences for learning related to financial literacy. That's to be submitted, and we have one grant to be accepted. It's the secondary school virtual coursework grant that was applied for. It's $89,778. And this is targeted for grades 6 through 12 to create a robust online course options for those age students.
Those will be our 4 action items for tonight. Could we have a motion to bundle 2144 through 2147?
Make a motion to bundle items 2021 through 21-44 through 21-47.
Second.
Roll call, Miss Greenleaf.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Yeah.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mr. Walsh,
Yes.
Miss Cragen,
Yes.
Mrs. LaBelle Pierce,
Yes.
Mrs. Reynolds. Is she still on?
Can hear, yeah, she
can't
says
see
she's
her.
waving yes. Yes, she
Thank
did.
you so much. She's not on my screen.
Yeah.
Mr. Horgan,
Yes.
thank you so much. We are unanimous.
Thank you. Can we have a motion to accept 21-44 through 21-47?
Motion made.
Second?
Greenlease?
Yes, sir, Mr. Stevens.
Yeah, roll call, please.
Yes, Mr. Stevens.
Yes, okay.
Yes, Mr. Walsh,
Yes.
Miss Cragen,
Yes.
Mrs. LaBelle Pierce,
Yes.
Mrs. Reynolds. Is she waving?
Yes, she is. Yes,
Thank
she
you
is.
thank you so much. Mr. Horgan,
Yes.
thank you. Unanimous.
There will be no executive session tonight. We will have it next week. Can we have a motion for adjournment?
Before we
Wait,
adjourn.
go ahead, Jean. Yes.
Before we adjourn, I kind of wanted to say this after the hybrid presentation, but I want to just take this opportunity to talk to the teachers in the district, because I would just say, as a teacher, there's been nothing short of a revolution in our job this year. Like from March 13th to almost a year later now, coming up on it. And I just, what's going to start, and it started today with the cohort C kids who have started to come in, but it is definitely a transition as a teacher when you go from all remote to then kids who are remote and then kids who are in front of you. And I just want to just tell them, tell the teachers in the district to give themselves, a little slack and understand that it's going to take a little bit to get your groove in with that new method. But that it's going to be great to see kids. It's going to be a little, honestly, it's going to be a little nerve wracking, right? Like I definitely think through everything I do, just to understand the safety of it. And so I feel for the teachers, because I think it has been just so difficult, right? Like, and then I guess, and I'm excited for them, and I'm excited for the kids to get back into the building. But the other thing that I just wanted to say is, I think we just, as a school committee and as administrators, you guys just remember that, and I know you know this, but I feel like it's important to say it, there's still so many kids that are home. And I want the focus to remain for those kids too, right? Like, even as we're happy to see kids coming into the building, so many are not. And that should still just be everybody's mission, to connect whatever, all the kids to something, whether it's a virtual group or it's getting together for walks outside when it gets nicer. I mean, there are just so many kids who aren't going to be able to do hybrid and are still going to need all our TLC. So I think it's a moment like that is big for the district. And I just wanted to say that, because I live it every day. So I wish Fitchburg all the best, all the best as we start the new phase.
I don't think a lot of, particularly probably parents, realize how hard the teachers are working. I talked to one of my teacher friends the other night. Since the beginning of the year, she's had 5 different assignments that she's had to do. She would teaching in one cohort, and then the change would be made, and then somebody left, and then she would have to teach in another. Having picked up some special ed work. So now when she starts today, it's on her 5th assignment for the year. So they're working hard, and we need to appreciate that. Any further comments before we say All in favor of,
Yeah, I'll make a motion
Yes.
to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Have a great week, everybody.
Take
Hey,
care.
thank you,
See
everybody.
soon. Bye
Thanks,
now.
See you.
Bye now.
Thanks for the presentations.
Yep.
Thank you.